Hi, it's Polly with Get Busy Thriving. I just want to give you one tip about self-trust. And self-trust is a foundation of self-love, self-acceptance, lots and lots of things. And self-trust, for those of us with eating disorders, is something that we erode at regularly when we don't do what we say we're going to do, when we let our addiction take over, when we give in to urges, things like that, right? We eat away at our sense of belief in ourselves, our worthiness, trusting ourselves. So we crush that, right? And I want to give you something that I think is one way that if you can practice this and bring this into your life, you can start building that bank account, if you will, of trust in yourself. Because a lot of the shame and suffering that goes on with eating disorders is because we lose that trust with ourselves. It's like, I don't believe myself anymore. I did for years. I would say, okay, that's the last time. That's the last time I'm doing that thing. I'm finding myself in the bag of cookies or ice cream or whatever, right? And I just didn't believe myself because the next day I would do it. So as you're working through your journey, through rebuilding your relationship with yourself, and maybe you're getting strides, I want to give you one tip to think about in the area of self-trust, so you can help rebuild that bank account. And that is, it's the little things that you do when you're alone with yourself, right? I liken it to personal integrity. It's integrity with yourself. I liken it to the heart of a champion, right? One of my favorite quotes is, champions do in private what it takes to be called champions in public, right? And that goes to like living a champion life. And some of us don't see ourselves maybe as like champions, like, Olympic champion or world champion of something or another. And that's the practice that world champions do to achieve great things. Is they spend time working out when no one else is watching. They do their reps. They do all the practice. It's not just the one time on the court or on the field or in the ring or something like that makes that champion. It's all the hours leading up to it, right? And the same is true of self-trust. It's all those little things you do or don't do with yourself when no one's watching, when no one else is around. That's you being in integrity with you, or being out of integrity with you. I remember one time I had a mentor who said, imagine you had a board of directors walking around in your life. Would they be proud? Or like, how would they look at what you're doing, how you're living your life, how you're running your business, how you're running your life, whatever. And I started like walking around thinking I had this board of directors, and I was like, God, if they knew, kind of thing. But I was like, wait a minute. Why don't I think that way? Why don't I live a life that is like worthy of myself, worthy of anyone knowing? Like, stop living behind this like veil of, and I'm not saying be perfect here. I'm not saying, never have a slip up or go, oops, whoop, whatever. But if you are finding yourself with a severely negative bank account of trust in yourself, I find that it's those moments when, for me, it's like when I'm at the gym and no one's paying attention, and I said I was going to do 10 reps and I do 8, right? If I don't do those last 2, I just don't feel good about myself. And this is just me. This is just my mental chatter, but I'm just giving you an example of how that can show up. Or, if I say I was going to call someone and someone's counting on me and I avoid it, right? I avoid it for whatever reason, and I don't follow through. Right? Or I just lots of little things, lots of little choices, lots of little decisions where you can keep your word to yourself. Integrity, I think, one definition anyway, is you are your word, and when you're not, you clean it up. And that includes yourself, right? So I'm not talking black or white here. Like, I do everything perfectly, and because that just leads to like not making your word. Like, you don't put your word out there because you're like, well, if I can't be 100%, then I'm not going to commit. It's like, whoa. That just shrinks our life, shrinks our possibility and scale. So it's not so much about that. It's doing your best at all times. And the back end of this is self-forgiveness, right? Self-compassion and forgiveness when you don't. There's so much information out there about when, let's say, you're in an addictive relationship with something, food, drugs, whatever. But if you're in a addictive relationship with food, like a lot of my clients, When we have those slips, when we have those moments and we're like, fuck, I did it, and then we beat ourselves up, those minutes, hours, days, or whatever, that just sends us deeper into doing it again. Because all those hours of self-hatred, self-loathing, all that stuff, it keeps us in a negative state. So a state of suffering and disempowerment is never going to be a state that's going to have you championing yourself, making good decisions. It's just going to be like worse and worse. And they say that there's studies that show that when you spend time, so an addict who spends time, I think this was drinking they did it with, or gambling, but if they spend time beating themselves up after they had a slip, it's like, oh damn, and they spend all that energy, they're more likely to do it again and do it worse. Like they're more likely to do it again and do it worse. So I say, man, if you're not out of integrity with yourself, like clean up, like, okay, you know what? I got it. And forgive yourself quickly and move on. Because keeping yourself in that disempowered state, it doesn't serve you. So my ultimate message in this to you really is about that self-trust. It's building self-trust through those little things when no one's around. Like when no one else knows, you know. Like, you know. So start acting like you are important. You are watching you. And if it means being more self-aware, because oftentimes what I hear from myself and with my clients is I check out. Like, it's an excuse. Like, it got overwhelming, or it just was too hard, or whatever. And you just kind of check out of your life. You check out of making a decision. You just kind of like, oh, fuck it, Well, that's when you need to check in the most. That's when you need to step up the most and go, all right, what am I experiencing right now? Like, what do I need to do? Like put your big girl pants on. Like, be it. Like, do it, right? And don't let, it just happened. Like, don't keep doing that. Like, be in integrity with yourself. Like, if you create a commitment, then do your best to be in that commitment. And be in that commitment in a state of progress, not a state of perfection, right? Because if you're in that black and white perfection, there's no room for possibility. No room. So allow yourself the possibility that you could fail, but you could also succeed, right? And if you don't, put yourself in the place where you could try again and do it again. And creating those little wins creates little bank account additions to your self-trust, okay? I hope this was helpful. Any comments, I welcome them. Feedback. Hope you enjoy.